Bernie, please enter the stage, enter the arena.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Pimconauts. It's really a pleasure to be here again on the stage with Dietmar this year. I think it's almost the first time that we are together on the stage talking about our product.
Yes, but now let's first look at what we are talking about today,
Yes.
Pimcore X.
Pimcore X.
Pimcore X, a huge story. Welcome to Pimcore X, our biggest release ever. I would like, I'm COVID tested and also I got the shots also, as well as Bernie. And we founded actually him. He created the first version of Pimcore.
But the ideas were from you.
So there was a tight collaboration in 2009. So it was spectacular, and we are, close friends, working together since more than a decade. And of course, we were tremendously proud when we initially released Pimcore X this year on the 11th of May 2021. So it was an exciting year,
Absolutely.
So many things to do, and it was great. And how was that pushing that button on the May 11th?
To be honest, it was a great feeling because it was such a huge step forward for us, and we had so much effort to get there. So this was a really great thing, also for the whole team. We enjoyed it really.
Oh, perfect. And I think we also, in the afternoon, then we had some beers to celebrate. So it was really an awesome day, the day of our release of the Pimcore platform in the version X. So we have been working the last 11 years to build the best data and experience management platform out there. And today, we are starting a new chapter, a brand new chapter of that awesome story. Let me reach out to you, dear customers, dear partners, dear developers, join in as the Pimcore X journey continues. So, Pimcore is our biggest release ever. The Pimcore crew and the whole Pimcore development community invested heavily in creating the Pimcore X platform, being the most advanced data and experience management platform out there. Pimcore provides the latest technology stack. Pimcore X increases tremendously in performance and stability. And last but not least, I have to stress this, for most of you it's probably the biggest thing, Pimcore X sparkles with awesome new features. So we are talking about latest tech stack. We are talking about performance and stability and additional features. But I have to say, just one word, Bernie, I think the whole platform has been rebuilt in a certain way.
Actually, yes, the basement completely changed. So we really did a lot of refactoring there and optimizations. So this is really
not just painting the walls, but really,
from the ground up.
From the ground up. Yeah. And that was, I guess, enormous amount of work.
Yes, of course. But it also, you can see it now in the product, it really reflects there. So it really feels much better. And from time to time, it's just necessary to build things newly and create it from the ground up.
And I think it's also a new starting point in a certain way.
Absolutely. For us, this is really a huge step. That's why we call it Pimcore X. So wholly new chapter for us.
It's like Apple with OS X is doing.
Absolutely.
We would like to be as big as them. So but I see. So great things are happening, and one of the biggest things is actually also happening. And this, I have to say, this is finally happening. Because customers have been waiting for that for years. And we were promising. We were promising.
I think twice.
Twice, I think we were promising twice. The topic of cloud optimization. Cloud optimization has a lot of technical aspects, but also, of course, business aspects. So we were really thinking through everything, and we had to be technically compliant with the cloud first. Yes. That's what we were not thinking about in the past. And that's what the underground, so that the framework also meant to be, to build cloud compliant. And that's what we are. Look at this, cloud optimized for the first time in our life. And that's a big thing for us actually to do.
Yes, the cloud optimizations in Pimcore X are truly good news. But before we dive into the details of the cloud, I would like to talk some words about the technology stack. We talked already some words about it, but now some more details. We always want to build the best stuff on earth for developers. This is since ever Pimcore exists, and so we continued this with Pimcore X as well. This is because we are completely sure that the development community is the source for our inspiration and dedication. And this is our passion, and to be honest, this is what it's all about. So for Pimcore X, we exclusively run on PHP 8 to really provide the best performance in the industry and the latest features and development patterns. It is also built on the latest Symfony stack, which provides the Pimcore platform with industry-leading technology features. So you can use everything from the Symfony framework as well for you coders. And last but not least, we also changed the whole UI framework, or we updated it to XJS 7. And this improves the overall experience in the UI. So as you can see, we are providing really the best stuff on earth, free of charge, and as Dietmar mentioned already, open source and available for everyone. That's a huge thing, I would say. But that's by far not all. Pimcore X is truly damn fast, you can believe me. It's really the fastest Pimcore ever. The Pimcore crew worked almost day and night for achieving this goal. Due to the hundreds of optimizations we implemented and the awesome PHP 8 just-in-time compiler, we were able to set a benchmark here. Just imagine, we are talking about 50 to 100% faster response times. So that's really a number, right?
Isn't it also something for headless commerce or headless content management?
Absolutely. Response times are crucial there. So we really have to deliver the content as fast as possible.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the magic behind it also? So what are the sparkles and so on?
Yeah, most of the stuff comes, of course, from the PHP 8 optimizations, and that we are able with Pimcore X to leverage all the new features from PHP 8. That was a huge boost, but also directly in the core of Pimcore, the optimizations, database queries, how the whole code is constructed and the design patterns. So this all together helped to get really a boost into Pimcore X. And last but not least, also the caching. I forgot it nearly, but also the caching completely changed. So we are building on top of Symfony there now with multiple backends, so you can really fine-grain, configure it, and really bring it to the maximum performance-wise.
Perfect.
And so that's how we achieve this. But we are also providing new features that get this boost, like a static page generator, for example, and things like that.
I think we will hear that a little bit later on.
That comes later on.
But static page generator, what does that? So static pages, which are probably damn fast.
Yeah, there is nothing that is faster than that. This is not included in this 120% number, because there we are talking about dynamic requests, of course, because faster than a static page is just not possible, of course. So that's already a great thing, but also the time for getting data into and out of Pimcore improved by about 20 and 70%. This is what I mentioned, where we tweaked the whole core and data persistence layer to get these numbers. And this is also very important for Pimcore because, yeah, getting data in and out, this is what we do. This is our main purpose. And last but not least, even the whole back office is now about 10 to 30% faster. And this altogether is really a huge thing, in my opinion. But now, let's go back to the cloud and see what's happened there.
Perfect. Cloud optimized, yes. I wanna stress just the numbers a little bit. So if you are the past numbers, so if you're also an editor working with the Pimcore backend, then also this is faster.
Yes, absolutely. So we also switched some of the functionalities to background tasks. So not everything happens directly in real time. So we do that behind the scenes. And this, of course, makes the UI more reactive and feels just better and more responsive.
Because I was just to give you some insights, I was like making a press release and working with the Pimcore platform, and I was using the documents. And the documents, it was always a little bit, a little bit slow because it has to reload, before you can edit. And I was like clicking on those, how are they called, the edibles or the editables.
The area bricks, you just click there and it's
now
it's there. Yeah.
It was like...
This is actually happening directly in the user interface, so there are no background tasks. So we completely moved the whole functionality into the front end.
Awesome.
And yeah, that's why it's just click and there, and there is no wait time.
Yeah, I think this makes a huge impact for all the groups, for developers, because it's now leaner to develop and also optimized, also in terms of, I know what the deployment and all of these things, configuration. Can you just, because you told me yesterday we're having a little beer, and we have still some time here. So can you tell me also some insights in terms of development and how deployment and how this has been changed? Is there something that you can share?
For the deployment, if you just click on the next slide, there we will see also some bullet points, what we improved. This is, first of all, it's not that Pimcore 6 or earlier versions didn't run in the cloud. It was still possible. That's why we are talking about cloud optimized and not cloud ready or something like that. So it was still possible, but there was coding involved, for example, and you had to really have deep knowledge of how the cloud works and how to configure it and all these kind of things. And now we switched over to a really just configure-only cloud environment. So, for example, if you are using cloud storage and things like that, it's just a matter of configuration. So you just go in the config, put your configs there, you get from your cloud provider, and then you are ready to go. We are also providing migration tools, for example. So that you
actually,
can
this means this is more decoupled.
Yes,
you can now do this in the cloud and this on-premise.
You can just do mix and match.
So microservices, actually.
Completely microserviced, yes.
Okay. Because that's a topic that we were talking about lately, microservices, Mark Alliance. We will hear that a little bit later on in other talks. But these are new trends, industry trends, system architecture trends that reflect a new area of software development and also deployment. And therefore, I was interested in, hey,
and it also makes it faster to deploy all the stuff, because it's just configuration, and you don't need the deep knowledge of the cloud infrastructure.
Yes,
so,
perfect.
You're just configuring it.
So basically, we added a lot of different things to be cloud optimized.
Yes, so like I said already, we optimized the configuration, but this is a bit different configuration. There we are talking about the configurations like predefined settings directly in the UI, things like that. So configurations which you can do directly in the Pimcore user interface, and not like the backend configuration that the developers or the system engineer configure. So this is really about the configurations directly in Pimcore. And there we changed the whole process of how you can store them. You can either deploy them statically, for example, the developer directly. So this is especially very helpful for immutable container environments, for example, where you can just deploy the whole thing as it is.
So this is Docker and Kubernetes and these kind of things.
Yes, the stuff I'm talking about, right?
Perfect.
And also, you can switch then the backend, so where to store the configuration. So you can choose either on the file system as YAML files or in the database, or you can even decide, okay, no, these configurations are not editable for the editors, for example, or for the administrators in the user interface. So you can just disable that, and this is also possible.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So this is actually what I call a game changer. Pimcore X is a game changer. So it was, Pimcore 1 to Pimcore 6, and we migrated from Zen framework to Symfony. But now Pimcore X is a game changer because it's cloud first in a certain way in terms of the paradigm in the background. Of course, we are still open source and on-prem and these kind of things, so nothing will change there. But in terms of the thinking, the configuration, microservices powered, we put additional thoughts into that whole platform, and that's basically what we have done. So modern configuration, file system abstraction. Bernie, can you say a little bit about the message queue?
Yes,
what is
maybe
actually
some
that?
words on the file abstraction layer.
Oh, please,
first.
yeah, say some words.
The file abstraction layer is also one important and very crucial part of the whole thing, of the cloud readiness, so cloud optimization. And we added a file abstraction layer that is almost compatible with any cloud storage system out there. So no matter what you are using, and like I said already, we are also providing migration tools there. So you can even start your development on site and then just migrate it directly.
But is this, for example, Amazon AS3, or how is it called? S3?
Yeah.
Or Asia, I don't know.
Any kind of object storage, basically. Most of the object storages are using anyway a S3 flavored protocol that is compatible. But also any kind of other remote storages. I think there is even an old school FTP adapter. Which
FTP, file transfer protocol, I remember that one. I think it was in the 80s or 90s when I first started writing websites.
Yes.
FTP. Oh, I
but
love FTP.
This could be even handy for migrating stuff, legacy stuff, for example, into the cloud.
Yeah.
So
perfect.
But not to run it directly in production. This would be a bit heavy.
Perfect.
And last but not least, we have the messaging queue. This is also a very interesting thing. Which allows us to distribute all the background running jobs around several nodes. So just imagine you have, for example, a dedicated node for image optimization. Then you have a whole cluster or pod in Kubernetes speech that processes all the Pimcore maintenance tasks in the background, that housekeeping things, and also the version cleanups, things like that. So you can completely distribute that over your whole cluster, or even in different zones wherever you want to run that. And this
so is it possible, just for me to imagine, is it possible that I use, for example, a machine for transcoding videos or optimizing images in parallel while using headless CMS functionalities to deliver data?
Yes.
So I can decouple.
And this is the cool thing then.
But this is then, again, microservices?
Yes.
Okay.
So actually, you can have as many queue workers as you like, and with different roles. So the one is, like you said, transcoding videos, which is a heavy task. And if you are running that all on the same machine or same container, of course, this would affect the performance for delivering headless content. So this is also what we have identified as a very important topic to really optimize Pimcore for the cloud, to distribute tasks, and to dedicate tasks as well, so that they can really concentrate on, for example, delivering the content.
So that also means that we are continuing to go into that direction.
Yes,
in terms of being the most advanced. I have to talk in terms of marketing talk. I have to brag. So we continue to be the modernist also software development kit
this is
or
just
framework.
The beginning. this is actually
This is just the beginning.
So there is more to come, and like we said, we are adding continuously more and more improvements and additional features to really improve that and yeah, be the leader actually in that regard.
Perfect, perfect. You know, cloud does not mean that we are just running in the cloud. Cloud means, so if I got you right, cloud means a change in terms of the paradigm.
Yes,
that we are using and that we are focusing on. So it's a game changer. And that's what I said before when we're talking about Pimcore X. Pimcore X is a game changer, and it's just the beginning of something we continue to be extraordinary. But still, we have to see, hey, we are already a huge global leader in data management, and it's just the beginning. So keep an eye on us, dear competitors. Hey, we have something in place, that's really awesome. Let's continue with the talk. Let's continue. Thanks to the Pimcore crew, that's one of the most important things I want to stress today. Not only the Pimcore crew, but also the Pimco nuts out there, which are the Pimcore ecosystem, the whole community. You all did an extraordinary job, bringing the best Pimcore release to life. From so many different countries, Switzerland and Sweden and Norway and Germany and the UK and Netherlands, all those partners, you brought that to life. That's your Pimconauts with a good guitar, with the surfing board. That's the symbol of our dedication, are the Pimconauts. And you guys did a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, also from my side, a big thank you to the whole community. Pimcore lives from the community, and yeah, this is what it's all about. But now it's time again for some more impressive numbers. At the moment, we have really more than 400 active contributors. This is really just amazing, and compared to other software vendors, yeah, this is really a high number. This is something we can really be proud of, and also the whole community. Pimcore X consists of more than 1,000 new features and improvements. This sounds really very much, but like we said, we have so many little things.
Tiny things and big things.
Big things, yeah. And yeah, for the total thing, we were really impressed when we made the statistics that we are over 1,000. So yeah, that's really cool. And yeah, this 1,000 features and improvements come from more than 3,000 commits since we started the work on Pimcore X. That's impressive, right?
That's impressive. 3,000 commits, that's awesome.
Yes. So yeah, I think
this was Pimcore X. And now, of course, we want to see, features. And Christian Fasching will present us the new features in a second. But first of all, I would like to invite Felix to the stage. And to talk about a little bit about Pimcore X and how we have done this in the past. And then we continue with Christian Fasching. And when I mean Christian Fasching, I have to say that Christian Fasching is not pregnant, but he got a baby. So that's what he has got. He got a baby girl, I think.
Yes.
A baby girl, just a few days ago. And
yes.
So he had to look in the hospital. So huge shouts go out to Christian Fasching, who is our CPO, the Chief Product Officer of Pimcore, who defines also the product, and together with CTO Bernhard Rusch defines basically the product together, and now is absent today. But our biggest, I would say, let's say some kisses, Christian, to you. But now Felix, come to the stage, please.
Now that's amazing.
Thanks
So many new features, guys. Are you excited, Bernie?
Yeah, I'm
you got a
totally
smile on
excited.
your face, like you should see him. Like every time he's not on camera, he's still smiling. Now, we're going to see Christian in just a few moments.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We continue with the track right now, but I wanted to hear your voice and say, hey, but Felix, what did you think about what you heard? Isn't it amazing what we are doing?
It is absolutely incredible, especially the third version coming to market, offering a cloud-based solution. Yeah. It's just in time, I guess. Like, this is the perfect timing for it, and I'm so excited.
Perfect.
And I see you are excited. I'm pretty convinced that everybody out there is really excited, so yes.
Perfect. Then I'll give my hands to Bernie. I give it to you.
I'm going to take you from stage.
Take him. Not too hard, not too hard. So, thanks again for watching Pimcore X, what we are doing, what we are up to. And now we continue. And that's what you want to see, basically. We want to see some fucking new features. Because that's what we are here. We are a software product. We are a software product, and the software product is about, it's a little bit about bragging with numbers. It's about talking marketing speech. But last but not least, it's about those fucking features. It's about what is the platform capable of doing. And that's, of course, really important thing. And I have again to say, sorry to say, Christian is today absent. He's getting his second child, big shouts, and he is now joined by videos. Hello, Christian. How are you doing? And please kick it off. Watch closely.
Thank you very much, and hello and welcome also from my side. Great to have you all here, and I hope you enjoy the show. I have now the honor to show you a couple of the new features of the Pimcore platform. And I want to start with a very big topic of every data management platform, which is getting data into the system. Of course, with Pimcore, you always can utilize the Pimcore API to get data into the system. And due to a couple of performance improvements, this is as performant as never before. But of course, utilizing an API means you need to understand the API, you need to write some script, and this is not always the way of choice. And that's why we created the all-new Pimcore Data Importer, which comes as a community extension provided by the core team and allows you to configure data and import data just by configuration. And yeah, let's have a look how this is working. And for that, we switch into the Pimcore backend and start with creating a data model. So just create a data object class, which we call, for example, product now. And then we add some fields there. To not bore you too much, I already prepared some class definition here, which contains a couple of input fields, which contains a localized field, which also has some image data and a gallery data attribute, and also a calculated value. Maybe just one quick word to the calculated value data type, which also has a small improvement. And this improvement now allows you to define the calculation of the calculated value directly here in the class definition by providing a Symfony expression and does not require you to write a PHP service and a PHP code anymore. So there you can define your calculation or your string concatenation or whatever you want to do with the calculated value here. So let's save this, and having now our data model in place, we can start importing the data. And the import is done via the data hub with the Pimcore Data Importer, which is an adapter in the data hub, which is called the Data Objects Importer. And this importer now allows us to configure all the import. First of all, we need to define the data source. There we have different types of data sources we can load the data from. For now, we just use an asset as a data source, which we already have prepared also in our demo application here. And then we also need to configure the file format, which is in our case a JSON file. And then the most interesting part starts, which is the import settings part. And there we maybe start with the import preview, which just provides you with all the columns or data attributes of our source and also with some sample data loaded from the source. And then here on the right side, we can configure all the import settings. First of all, we need to define the data object class we want to import to. In our case, we import this to the newly created product class. And then we have a couple of additional settings here. And yeah, now we only can, of course, scratch the surface. We will explain all the settings in our deep dive session. And of course, we also have it in our academy. For now, we just do two settings here. First of all, we define the folder where we want to import our data to. And the second thing is that we define that we want to publish our newly imported elements. The rest we leave as it is, and then we directly switch to the mapping section, which is probably the most important one, which defines the mapping between the data source and the data object class. We have already some autofill feature here, which tries to do some auto mapping and now has added a couple of mappings here for every attribute one. And there we see we have the data source article number, which we also have some preview here, and which we want to assign to a certain data target, which is in this case directly assigning it to the article data attribute of our data object class. Same goes for manufacturer here. Same goes for the model. Same goes also for the description. But for the description, we have to do some manual work, as the description is a localized field. And so we need to assign this manually and also define the language of our description. Let's just do the same also for the German description. And so we can very easily define the mapping between our data source and our data target. So let's just remove a couple of the attributes that we don't need. And then we maybe discuss the main image, which is quite interesting. In our preview, we see there that the source provides an URL where we can download the data from and then assign it to our data object. And this is also, of course, what we want to do. And for that, we can utilize the transformation pipeline. In general, the transformation pipeline allows you to transform the imported data before it is added to the data object value. And there we have a couple of different operators, quite simple ones like trimming, like adding some static text, like doing some exploding, combining, all these kind of things. And we also have an operator which is called import asset, which imports the asset from a provided URL and saves it as an asset. We just define the target folder also for the asset, and then we can assign it directly to our main image data attribute of our data object class. Very similar, we can do this also for our gallery. Let's just add there, for example, 2 images. Again, we have just the sources provided. Again, we just use the import asset operator, add it to the import folder. And in this case, we also now need to do some more transformation because we now want to assign it to our gallery. That means we need a gallery data object. And for that, we just use this asGallery operator, which creates us a gallery object, which then can be assigned to the gallery data attribute of our class definition. And the rest we just remove again because we don't need it for now. And we save the mapping here. And now we have defined all the mapping between our data source and our data model. Here in the preview, we see also an overview of all the fields that are mapped now. And now it's time to execute the import. For execution, we have 2 options. First of all, we can just start it manually here directly in the configuration. This means that the import is started and all the items are added to a queue, which is then processed in the background. As an alternative, we also can define a cron definition where we can define that the import should be executed on a regular basis, like every hour or once a day or whatever interval you need for your import. There we see that the import now is running. In addition to this execution status, we of course also have the logs available here where we see that the data is imported to the system. And while the import is running, we already can have a look at our data objects here, and we see in the import folders that all the data objects are already imported here, with all the data attributes of course filled, and also of course with all the media assets filled, and of course we also can open up the asset as a detail page. And once the data is in the system, we can, of course, then do all the data management that we can do with Pimcore, with all the features Pimcore provides. We can enrich the data, we can link it to other data, we can do whatever we actually want to do with our data. And at some point, then the data is finished and is ready to be published to the outside world. So we can present it to our different stakeholders, we can export it, or we can just provide it via any portals. And for that, we can, for example, use our experience portals, which we presented last year, and which are, of course, also available in Pimcore X. And let's just create such a portal. And for that, we just use our wizard, which now really works. And let's call it, for example, portal, define the domain we want to have our portal available. Then we define the available languages. Let's maybe also define some logo here and some nice background image for the login page. And then we can configure the data that should be visualized in our portal. And for that, we need to assign or add so-called data pools. For now, maybe let's just add an asset data pool, which presents the assets that are managed in Pimcore. Let's just add a nice icon there too. So let's just use this icon here. Do some settings like enabling folder navigation, also defining which thumbnails we want to allow for downloading the data, also some shortcuts in the detail page. And we also can configure the format for downloading the structured metadata of the assets. And that's already the most important settings for our asset data pool. And then, in addition to the assets, we also want to add the products we just imported to the system. And for that, we need to add a data object data pool, which we call, for example, products. Again, we choose a nice icon here. And then we need to define also the class definitions, or the data object class that we want to use, and also the detail page layout. And for the detail page layout, the portals use the so-called custom layouts of the data object class that we need to define first. So let's just add a custom layout here, which we call, for example, portal. And this custom layout now defines which data attributes should be available in our portal in the detail page. And for now, we just add all the attributes of our class definition. Of course, we can pick there several ones. We can hide some attributes. We also can change the appearance, the order of the attributes, and all these kind of things. Let's just make it simple and just use the default one here. And then we can go back to our wizard and select our product class, define the custom layout, again do some detailed configurations like defining the thumbnail definition where we want to allow for downloading the images, and also define the formats that we want to allow for downloading the structured data of the data objects. And then we just create the portal. Portal gets created, it's already all here, and then we also easily, of course, can directly jump into the portal, open, for example, the products pool here with all the product listing here that we want to import. Of course, we can also open up the detail pages where we see then also all the data attributes that are imported in the system. So we have all the data attributes here available. Also, of course, the media. And we have, of course, also available the asset data pool where we have all the assets that are in the system available. Again, also with some detail page available. And of course, in the detail page, we also have some metadata available. So just with a few clicks, we have created a nice portal. And to sum this up, what did we now do? We just created a data model. We configured an import, we imported the data, we enriched the data, and we created a portal for publishing the data to the outside world. And this we did in just under 10 minutes. How cool is that?
Oh, Quash, how cool is that? So this is really astonishing. This is, doing that within a few clicks and a few minutes, this is hot stuff. all without writing a single line of code, just with configuration. This was in previous days, this wasn't possible. So, this is really fast, this is great. I'm so sorry that you are not here today. Ich würde ihn umarmen. I would knuddle him. I don't know how to say that in English. I would hug him. Damn, this is hot stuff. Speaking of configuration, Fash, are there more things we can configure now directly in the platform?
Yes, there are, but let me quickly talk about a more technical topic first, which is quite technical, but still very important and also the foundation for more configuration options. Pimcore provides lots of configurations to be made directly in the user interface, like static routes, like document types, like image thumbnails, and so on. Depending on the use case you're using Pimcore in, you might want to predefine these settings and deploy them to the production system. And in other use cases, you might want to allow the users on the production system to modify these settings and don't overwrite them during any deployments anymore. And in some use cases, you might want to do even both, which is quite challenging right now. With Pimcore 10.2, we made some significant improvements on that, as we introduced 2 storage locations for settings. We have the Symfony configuration files on the one side and the setting store in the database on the other side. And for every configuration type, like for image thumbnails, like for document types and so on, you now can configure a default storage location for the configuration. And so it's easily possible to configure a system in a way that you predefine all the settings and deploy them and don't allow any changes on the production system anymore. Or on the other side, you also can configure the system that you allow the users on the production system to do modifications to the settings and don't overwrite them due to any deployments. And for some configurations, like for example for image thumbnails, it's possible to do both, to provide some mandatory predefined thumbnail definitions and then still allow the user to add additional thumbnail configurations, for example for exports and so on. And this foundation, this concept now can be used for any configurations that Pimcore provides. And so we can add additional ones, like we did, for example, for single sign-on. So let's talk about single sign-on. Especially in enterprise environments, single sign-on is quite mandatory. Of course, it always has been possible to integrate Pimcore backend login with single sign-on systems, but there was no official out-of-the-box integration. And this changes now with the OpenID Connect integration, which comes as an enterprise extension and is available starting with Pimcore 10.2. And this OpenID Connect integration allows now Pimcore to be integrated with any OpenID Connect provider. And you can configure the integration directly here in the backend interface, where you can configure multiple OpenID Connect providers. For every Connect provider, you can then specify a name, the client ID, the client secret, the discover URL. You can specify the scopes that should be used when exchanging the information between the OpenID Connect provider. And you even also can configure some claim mappings to map the claims provided by the OpenID Connect provider with the fields internally used by Pimcore. And as soon as you have configured OpenID Connect providers, you can of course also use them for login. Let's just log out quickly and see. As soon as you have configured OpenID Connect providers, you have their additional buttons for every OpenID Connect provider, where you can then use them for login. And as soon as you click the button, you are redirected then to the OpenID Connect provider. You can enter your user credentials, if you know them, and then you come back to the Pimcore backend system and are logged in as the user that is provided by the OpenID Connect provider. Of course, it's also possible to make user roles. So if the OpenID Connect provider provides you with user roles and you have them existing in this Pimcore system, they are automatically mapped. And so certain user permissions are then, of course, also predefined. And if you are already logged in the OpenID Connect provider, then of course you don't need to enter your credentials anymore and are redirected directly then to the Pimcore backend user interface. This is not only possible for the Pimco backend, the OpenID Connect provider is also possible to be configured with the portals of Pimco, the experience portals. So there you also now can integrate any OpenID Connect provider for the user management.
Personally, I'm always a lot of talking with customers, and for this one, I have been waiting for a long time, because those customers always say, "Hey, how does that work?" And I said, "It doesn't work right now." But as I know, there's even more than that topic. What else do we have, Christian?
Well, another new configuration option is the Perspective Editor, which comes as a community extension and was contributed by Roland from our partner Sidewerk. Once again, thank you very much, Roland. It's a great addition to the ecosystem. The Perspective Editor allows you to configure custom views and perspectives. So let's start with maybe the custom views here, which are additional trees to the standard trees, like we have it here, the documents tree, the asset tree, and the data object tree. And there you can configure additional ones, where you can specify, of course, a name. You can specify the type of the tree, which should be a document, asset, or data object. You can specify an icon. You can specify a root folder. You even can further filter it down with some SQL statement. And you also can specify which context menu entries you want to allow in this custom view. And once you have set up all your custom views, you can then start setting up your perspective and compose the perspective. The perspective defines the whole appearance of the Pimcore backend user interface, like which trees should be on the left side here, which trees should be on the right side, and it also defines which toolbar entries should be available here in this main toolbar on the left side here. Let's maybe just quickly add a new perspective here. Start with defining an icon. Let's just use a nice icon here. And then we can specify the trees on the left and the right by just adding them. For example, add a document tree or maybe an asset tree here. And then on the right, we maybe add a custom view here, which we can then select from all of our custom views that we have configured. In addition to the trees, we also can predefine certain dashboards, and we also can specify which toolbar menu entries should be available in this perspective here. And once we have saved it, we can reload the user interface, and then we also can already load the perspective. Of course, available perspectives also can be tied to certain users and user roles. That means you can specify exactly which perspectives should be available for what user roles, and so can specify them exactly what perspectives are useful for them. If a user has multi-perspectives available, then the user can select them here in this menu here. And for example, now let's just switch to our new demo perspective and see how it's looking like. So we have here on the left side now our assets tree, on the right side our cars tree, so exactly how we configured it in the perspective editor. So yeah, a nice configuration option that was added to the Pimcore platform.
Oh, that's a big thing. Perspectives, for me, perspectives is like a Swiss knife, the Swiss knife of configuring Pimcore to the exact needs of the customer. So because it's different if you use it for PIM or MDM or DAM or for e-commerce. So also nice, and thank you from my side for this contribution. It's a great addition to the ecosystem. What you were mentioning a little bit, workflows. I know that we have a workflow system for years now, based on Symfony workflows, at least what I know of. So, but you said, hey, you have something new there too. So I always wanted to be able to configure workflows in a neat way, and that was always a big topic for me and also for the customers. So is there something new in?
Haha, yeah, there I have one more thing for you. For quite some time we have it on our roadmap, and finally we have done it. Please meet our all-new Workflow Designer. The Workflow Designer comes as an enterprise extension and allows us to manage and configure workflows for the Pimcore workflow engine. Maybe let's just create the workflow and see how this is done. Let's just create a document workflow. And first of all, of course, we can set up all the different settings that the workflow engine provides us in terms of the general settings. Like we can provide a label, we can provide a folder to organize the workflows in the folder structure here. We can specify the type, whether it should be a workflow or a state machine. Then we can specify the subject, where we can choose between two different strategies, the simple and the expression strategy. Simple just allows us to define certain class definitions for the workflow subject. The expression one allows us to apply additional conditions and really specify exactly to which elements the workflow should be applied to. For now, let's just stick to the simple one and choose the documents, as we want to create a document workflow. And yeah, there we have some advanced settings like the marking store and also the option to enable the audit trail. The more interesting part, of course, is then the workflow definition, which allows us to define exactly which places and which transitions the workflow should have. And this can be done in this visual editor here. And there, let's just start and create a simple workflow. Start with a start place, which we call, for example, to do. And then we create a first transition and say content entered, for example, as name. Then we add another place, which we call, for example, ready for review. And then we maybe do another transition, reviewed and publish. And then we add a final place, which we call then, for example, publish. Of course, we can use drag and drop and just create a nice representation of our workflow and really do so very complex workflows. And of course, also we have the option to add additional settings as well to the places as well as to the transitions. So for example, for the places there, we have the option to define an additional label, a title, define if the place should be shown in the element header of the Pimcore elements, specify a color, and also define permissions, which are then applied to the elements of the Pimcore elements if the element is in a certain place here. Same also goes for the transitions, where we also have these additional settings here, where we can specify the label, where we can also specify a guard, where we can restrict the transition to certain user roles, for example, so only specific roles can execute this transition. We can specify icon, we can specify an object layout for data objects. We can also here specify, of course, the published state. In our case, for example, let's force it to published. Then we can enable notes, comments, require them. Let's just provide an additional title here. And then we also, in addition, can specify notifications that should be sent out when this transition happens here, either as mail or as Pimco notification. And so we can, really easy set up our workflow. Of course, this is a very simple one, but this can be, quite complex, of course, also if you add additional places and transitions. Let's just quickly open another one to have an example here, how it could look like. Of course, this is also not very complex, a bit more complex here. If the workflow gets even more complex, then we have also things like this map here, where we can easily navigate through a more complex workflow. We have, of course, also zoom options to zoom in and zoom out to have a nice overview. And also in the toolbar here, we have some additional tools which should us help designing the workflow, like things for marking multiple elements, like redo, undo features, and also, of course, the drag tool here for just scrolling around and navigating through the workflow. So coming back to our simple document workflow here, we have actually set up everything, and so it's time to test the workflow, and for that we just create a new document here. Let's just create a new content page, for example. And when we open this content page, we have already our workflow controls here, where we see the current place and also the actions which are available. So we can easily start entering some content here, maybe also just add some text here, just use what you see is what you get text, and paste here something, save it, and then we can start going through the workflow steps. So now we see that it's ready for review. Let's maybe just review it and say everything good, perform the action, and then we have now published our element. We don't have any transitions anymore available. The element is published, and if we go to our Notes and Events tab here, then we see also all the history of the workflow, where we see what happened and when the transitions were made. In addition to that, we also have this Workflow Overview tab here, which shows us all the workflows that apply to this element and also the current state, the current place of the workflow. In our case, it's published. And yeah, so we can now really utilize the full power of the Pimcore workflow engine. And the most important thing, of course, is that we can now design it directly in the Pimcore backend.
Ooh, I'm peeing my pants. This is really, oh no, I've been waiting for a drag and drop and these kind of things. So really great module, which is, I think, one of the key topics also for cloud readiness, because it can be configured without writing, I don't know what they are called, YAML files or whatsoever. So you have a neat workflow editor. So this is really great, and I'm looking forward to present this also to our customers. So be ready to check that out. In the documents area, I have also spotted some nice new things. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure, there are some small nice improvements, especially in the area of the documents. One of which is actually quite state-of-the-art. That means Pimcore is now again part of the state-of-the-art, and this is the improved area brick drag-and-drop performance. Up to now, it was necessary that Pimcore reloads documents as soon as you add any area bricks to the document, and these reloads are now gone. It means the area bricks are added instant to the document. So just add them to your document. For example, let's add a product teaser here, and bang, they are instant added to your document, and you can then just continue with your content editing. This is also valid for blocks. So for example, here in this product teaser, we have some block element, and let's just add 3 of the product teasers here. Bang, they're here again, and you can continue adding the content, which is really a nice improvement for editors, especially when the pages are quite long and took a significant amount of time for reloading. Another nice improvement, which is available for documents and data objects, is the Autosave functionality, which means that as soon as you change any data here in your documents, they are saved automatically to a so-called draft version. And as soon as there is a draft version available, Pimcore adds this additional button here up there. And as soon as you reload the document or close your browser accidentally or whatsoever, then Pimcore also automatically loads the content of your draft version. That means you should not lose any content anymore when you reload the elements or whatsoever. When you want to convert your draft version into a proper version, you just can use the default buttons like the Save and Publish button for publishing it, or also the Save Draft version for just converting the draft version to a normal version of the Pimcore versions. And if you want to revert the draft changes, you just need to click this button here, and then Pimcore reverts all your changes and loads the latest version that is saved of this current element. Again, a nice improvement which should help you to not lose any content anymore. And then when clicking around in the document settings, we have some small additional checkbox hidden here down there, which is called Static Page Generator. And this small checkbox has quite a significant impact, especially on the loading performance, because as soon as you activate the static page generator, Pimcore then does server-side rendering of this current document and caches the rendered HTML to the file system. And then when some user requests the content of this element, then it's delivered directly from the file system, directly by the web server, without any application server or any PHP needed, which of course has massive impact on the loading performance of these pages. As soon as you have activated this page generator, you also have a different icon for your document. So it's this gray icon, which is also of course available in the tree here. And there you see that you have activated this static page generator. Of course, this has to be used with care, especially in combination with sessions, with personalizations and these kind of things, because then, of course, you cannot do any static page generation anymore, but still it's a very easy to use feature, easy to activate feature, out of the box feature for massively improving the loading performance of your pages, and of course also in terms of the load for the server. If you need to use more sophisticated caching, you of course can still use the output cache of Pimcore also, or some external tools like Varnish and the likes.
Vash, thanks a lot. As always, cool improvements, especially combination of headless content management and static page generators. I think we are probably the fastest CMS or content management system out there. With these performance and with these capabilities. So another great addition to the platform. But now I think, now you would also like to say a few words about headless. So what's it about?
That you meant. Well, Pimcore offers great options to be used in a headless way. You can create your data models, you can manage all the data with data objects, with assets, and you can use the data hub for the data delivery and also even for updating the data. Everything just by configuration, no coding or no templating needed on Pimcore side. But well, with documents always need a template that defines the structure, and this template needs to be provided by the implementation. There is no such thing like a standard document in Pimcore or even a theme for documents. This is fine in non-headless approaches because it provides you with great flexibility and also is a core concept of Pimcore. But of course, in headless contexts, this is quite limiting and also quite annoying. And that's why we introduced our new headless documents, which come as an enterprise extension and provide you the possibility to configure the structure of a document and then render this structure in a standard template. So you don't need to define a template anymore, you just define the structure directly in the Pimcore backend, and then the structure is rendered with standard templates, and you can use then the full power, the full flexibility you also know from the standard documents. So let's just have a look into the Pimcore backend and see how this is done. In the context of the headless documents, we have two concepts. We have headless bricks and headless templates. The headless bricks are similar to the area bricks and provide you blocks or bricks that can be reused in the documents multiple times. And each brick contains a configuration which actually just configures which edit tables it should contain. So every block here is just an edit table. And in terms of the edit tables, we have pretty much all the types that are also available for the standard documents. And there on the right side, we also provide the documentation so that you see how you configure, for example, an input or a link edit table or a numeric edit table, or even relations to other elements just by providing the configuration here. And once you have set up all your headless bricks, then you can start configuring your headless templates. And the headless templates now define the structure of the documents. And so let's just, for example, create a simple template here. And the templates, again, have actually two things. They first define a certain layout. There we have three different types of layouts, like grid, simple, and tab panel. And then they have some kind of content. And the content, again, is then just a list of edit tables, which you can then arrange here. So let's maybe just use a simple layout here. There we see layout simple, and then we have the content with all the different editables, just a list again. And in terms of the editables, we of course have again all the editables that are available also in the documents, in the standard documents. We even also have, for example, blocks for repeating certain elements. And also we have, of course, this area block, which then can be used for reusing the headless bricks that we have defined before. Let's maybe just add this here and add our teaser and video, I think it was called. And then we just save our headless template and have now the structure defined. And now we can start using these templates with our headless documents. And there we are again back to standard documents. So we have just the different templates here available. Just use, for example, this simple one, create a new document, and then the document renders the structure that we have defined with the standard template that is provided by the headless templates. And then we can just add, of course, our content here, and also can add the bricks that we defined, and so compose all the content with the concepts we know already from the documents. So much for the data management part. When it comes then to the data delivery part, we can use standard concepts as we know them already from the documents. That means, for example, we can use the data hub for delivering all this data then to the outside world as we know it from the standard documents. So this is then pretty straightforward again on just as we know it already. Of course, the headless documents provide much more possibilities. I again just scrapped the surface. If you want to know more about the headless documents, just visit our documentation, of course, but also the deep dive session later this afternoon where we present you more details on the whole headless documents part.
Thanks, Fash. It was always a pleasure to hear what you have been up to. I would say at least this is the latest, or this is the latest shit actually, what is really into the platform, what we bring into the platform. And it's, I think, a lot to expect. The data importer, including the data hub. We've got the perspectives editor, which is always and also open source. We've got this headless topic. We have got the workflow editor. So it's a huge thing that we have achieved so far, and that's what we've got basically. That's what we have, and that's what we what we are aiming for. I would like now to invite Felix to the stage, and Felix, there you are.
I am back.
You are back again in the house. Very good.
Now, before you start singing these, I have a couple of questions.
Oh,
now,
please.
From your presentation, I see it right that data management market is very complex. That requires very special functionalities sometimes. How do you provide the right product to your clients? Like, how do you know exactly what they need?
This is an excellent question, and I wasn't prepared, but I have a talk about that, or we have a talk about that in the afternoon when we talk about the Pimco roadmap of 2022. So it's a question of product management. Mm-hmm. So I'm not the best guy to answer that, but as Christian is currently having his baby, I can answer that. So you have to know the market. You have to know the critical capabilities of such a solution, and you need to know the competitors. And these are just the three things you need to know. And of course, you need to know your personal business objectives. So there's a lot of more, but I will tell you a little bit later on when we go through the roadmap.
So in your presentation, or in the past couple of minutes, you said that it is available now. Like, what do you mean it's available now?
Available now means available right now. All three editions are available right now. The cloud edition, just go to our website and say, hey, I would like to have it. The Pimcore Enterprise edition, as always, on-prem. And of course, the community edition. So everything is ready right now. You just go to pimcore.com and download or contact us.
Absolutely incredible. Now, I think Dietz has earned his tiny, tiny break, because we'll see you back in just a few moments. But before that, well, feel free to have a small break. No, but leave it closed on stage, please. And we'll be right back in just a few moments with Pimcore, well, with Pimcore Triple Play.